Welcome back. So armed gunmen stormed into a school in northwestern Nigeria this week, abducting pupils whose true number is unconfirmed, but authorities suspect to be over 200. Eyewitnesses say the gunmen went into the school on Thursday morning just after assembly. Now, the motive is still unclear. Now, kidnappings of school learners has been a great concern over the past few years. That's since the abduction of more than 200 schoolgirls by Islamic extremist group Boko Haram. That was in 2014. Next month will be the 10-year anniversary since those girls were taken, and many of them still have not been reunited with their families. But let's now speak to Associate Professor at the Nile University of Nigeria's Department of Political Sciences and International Relations with a special focus on conflict and terrorism. We are joined by Professor Hakeem Onapajo. Prof, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, just your initial thoughts on the story coming out on Thursday morning of the abduction of these young people.
Yes, good morning, Nadedi. Well, it's quite a disturbing one when we read about the reports of what happened on Thursday. And, what this incident is a reflection of the abduction of the schoolgirls in 2014 that you rightly mentioned. So it's been an ugly phenomenon that is happening and becoming a component of the insecurity that Nigeria is battling with.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about what you feel, in your view, is really driving this very concerning phenomenon.
Okay, the truth of the matter is that we can't isolate this kidnapping from the general state of insecurity in the country at the moment. There have been waves, what I would call waves, of the kidnappings of school children at their schools. The most popular one that started this whole ugly phenomenon is the one that happened in 2014 with the kidnap of Chibok girls. And later we also had something similar to that, mostly in the northeastern part of the country. So the early part of these kidnappings was more about the terrorists trying to get people to be recruited into their group and also girls to use as sex slaves. But apparently a new phenomenon is happening within the incident, and that's how there's a shift geographically from where this thing is happening. Now we are seeing more of it in the northwestern part of the country. So those who are perpetrating this are more into ransom kidnapping. They are getting a huge amount of money that are paid as ransoms to release the children. When it comes to children, there will be a lot of concerns locally and globally, and people are ready to negotiate with anything to get them released. And I think that's the major reason behind this, with this new trend of kidnapping of school children.
I mean, the great concern, though, is that it's 10 years since the Chibok girls were abducted, and many of them still have not been found or reunited with their families. What is the issue where law enforcement is concerned, and why are we not able to bring justice to families that lose their children?
You see, what you have to understand, firstly, with regards to the issue of law enforcement, with the issue of security around the areas where this is happening, is the fact that you see, many of the places where these children are kidnapped are in rural areas, local areas where there is weak security around those places. The schools are not safe. The schools are not safe. The infrastructure for protection of the children are not there. So it's easy for most of these children to be attacked at those places. So I don't think enough is being done with regards to building security around those areas. And then with regards to the issue of justice, it's unfortunate that in Nigeria there is a larger problem of slow criminal justice system where you don't get justice on time. Some of these people that were responsible for it have been reportedly arrested, but we don't get to know much about the outcome of this prosecution when they begin. Yes.
What is law enforcement then looking like in dealing with just these terrorist groups then as a whole, and not just in terms of protecting young people in these very vulnerable schools where we're seeing these abductions taking place, but just the crackdown on terrorism in Nigeria? How is that battle looking?
Well, from the government circles, they would claim that there has been some progress. And apparently, to be fair to the government, there has been some progress with regards to cracking down on these armed groups. In northeastern Nigeria, it's not as pronounced as it used to be anymore. A few weeks or a week ago, I read a report from the government of Borno State that happens to be the epicenter of Boko Haram activities, and the claim is over 90% of those armed groups or members of the armed groups have been either killed, repented, or blah, blah, blah. But the truth of the matter is that, it still exists, but not as much as it used to be. But there is now a new pattern of, the conflict that has shifted to the northwestern part of the country. That's where the violence is existing at the moment. There has been some military crackdown on them, but I think, the underlying issues have not been significantly addressed. And the underlying issues, based on reports here and there, research that have been conducted, is that, there is some elements of socioeconomic grievances from marginalized groups. And they are using these terror attacks to send some message to the political and ruling elite. So I think the government also needs to address some of these, root causes of the violence against children.
We're obviously going to talk about hundreds of pupils having been abducted, and what we do is we speak about them as a rounded figure, but there are individual families there. Stories that stand out for you, as the story has been covered in Nigeria by family members of some of these young people that have spoken out. Please share with us some of those that really stand out for you.
Okay, what I've seen. You mean with the recent incident or generally?
The recent incident, absolutely. And perhaps if you'd like to go back 10 years and even speak about the Chibok girls and their families and that experience for them. The stories that South Africans aren't able to see close up.
Okay, what I read with regards to the incident that happened on Thursday is that, there are cries from the families and they are holding the government responsible for them to be able to help them to release the children. They know what has happened to the children kidnapped in past times, especially the Chibok girls. Most of them were never seen up to today. And the ones that were seen were not even acceptable to the society because they came back with children that were product of rape during their stay in the camps. Some of them have been seriously traumatized, psychological problems. In fact, even some of the released girls, they went back to the group. They went back to their husbands after they were released. So these parents know what happened to those girls, and they are seriously concerned, worried about the fate of their children. But if you look at the recent pattern of these kidnappings and the way they were released, I think the main focus now is the guys that perpetrated this act. I think they are much more interested in getting ransoms out of it. And I know there will be some negotiations here and there on how to release them.
Prof, before I let you go, your ideas on what should be communicated to schools in Nigeria that you think might very well be vulnerable. Is there sort of any empowerment that you think should be offered to schools?
Okay. When the 2014 incident happened, the government, in collaboration with some multilateral agencies, including the UNICEF, Save the Children Foundation, they established what they call the Safe School Initiative. And the essence of the Safe School Initiative is to, provide enough security in those areas they call the high-risk states, where, you have this increasing number of kidnapping. And some of them include, to transfer some of these children to better schools, to provide infrastructure for security around those areas. So that has been what the government has done so far. I don't think, with recent attacks here and there, it's apparent that it's not working as the government envisaged. So my own take on this is that there's need for more security presence around those areas. If you've been to some of these places where these things are happening, the schools are so open and so porous to attacks from groups. So there is need to communicate to the government. The school can't do anything. I don't think it's about communicating to the management of the schools, but it's for the government to do what it's needful in terms of providing security around the environment where children are in Nigeria.